My name is Robert Hayes. I'm 63 years old, and I live in a quiet suburb outside Denver, Colorado. For 40 years, I ran a small manufacturing business that most people never heard of, and that's exactly how I wanted it. If you had told me a year ago that I'd be standing at my own daughter's funeral, watching her husband smile while he read her will out loud to the entire family, I would have called you a liar. But that's exactly what happened. And when he reached my name, his smile disappeared. His hands started shaking, because he thought he knew everything about our family. He didn't know anything at all. This is the story of how silence became my greatest weapon, and how one piece of paper turned a room full of grief into a room full of truth. Let me take you back 3 years before any of this happened. My daughter Emily was the light of our family. Smart, kind, the kind of person who remembered your birthday even when you forgot it yourself. She married a man named Daniel, charming, well-spoken, always dressed like he was going somewhere important. At first, I liked him. He called me sir. He shook my hand firmly. He told Emily, in front of all of us, that he'd take care of her forever. I believed him. I wanted to believe him. After losing my wife 5 years earlier, Emily was all I had left, and seeing her happy was the only thing that mattered to me. Daniel worked in finance, or at least, that's what he told everyone. Nice suits, nice watch, a story for every occasion. Looking back now, I realize charm like that is sometimes just a performance. But back then, I didn't want to see it that way. I wanted to see a good husband for my daughter. The first year of their marriage looked perfect from the outside. But small things started catching my attention. Emily began skipping our Sunday dinners, something we'd done every week since she was a little girl. When she did come, she seemed tired, distracted. She'd check her phone constantly, like she was waiting for permission to relax. One evening, she mentioned that Daniel had asked her to sign some documents. Just paperwork for the house, she said. I didn't think much of it at the time. Married couples share finances. That's normal. But then she mentioned it again a few months later. And again. Always documents. Always nothing important. Always signed quickly, without much explanation. I started noticing something else too. Daniel's business trips got longer. His stories got vaguer. And every time I asked simple questions about his work, he changed the subject with a joke, or a compliment about my grandchildren. Something felt wrong. I just didn't have proof yet. It was Emily's diagnosis that changed everything. She'd been feeling unwell for months, exhaustion, headaches she brushed off as stress. When the doctors finally found the cause, it was late. Very late. A condition that had been quietly progressing while everyone around her assumed she was just tired from work and marriage. During those final months, I spent almost every day at her house, helping however I could. And that's when I started seeing things Daniel never expected me to see. Bank statements left open on the kitchen counter, large withdrawals with no explanation, a second phone that buzzed constantly, which he always answered in another room. One afternoon, while Emily was resting, I found a folder tucked behind some files in the home office. Inside were property documents with Emily's signature, transferring assets into accounts I didn't recognize. Documents she likely signed without fully understanding, exhausted from illness, trusting the man she married. I didn't say anything. Not yet. I needed to understand exactly what I was looking at first. The night Emily passed was the hardest night of my life. I sat beside her hospital bed, holding her hand, remembering every version of her. The little girl who used to fall asleep on my shoulder during car rides. The young woman who walked across the stage at her college graduation. The bride who hugged me so tight at her wedding I could barely breathe. And now, all I could do was watch her go. Daniel stood in the corner of the room that night, not beside her, not holding her other hand, just standing there, checking his phone. I remember thinking, in that moment, that grief has a way of clearing your vision. For the first time, I wasn't looking at Daniel as my daughter's husband. I was looking at him as a stranger who had been circling something valuable for a very long time. I made myself a quiet promise beside that hospital bed. I wasn't going to let him get away with whatever he had done. Not for revenge. For Emily. In the weeks after the funeral arrangements began, I did something Daniel never expected from a quiet, retired old man. I called an old friend, a lawyer I'd known for over 30 years, someone who had helped me build my business from nothing. I laid the documents out in front of him and asked him one simple question. Is this legal? What he found took my breath away. Daniel hadn't just moved money around. Over the past 2 years, he had systematically transferred property, retirement funds, and even a small trust that Emily's mother and I had quietly set up for her years ago, all under signatures obtained while Emily was overwhelmed, medicated, and trusting the man beside her completely. But here's what Daniel didn't know. Years ago, after my wife passed, I restructured my entire estate. Emily's inheritance, the real one, the significant one, wasn't in any account Daniel had access to. It was locked inside a family trust that required my personal signature to release, activated only under specific legal conditions. Daniel had spent 2 years stealing from an account that was never the real inheritance at all. He had been chasing a shadow while the truth sat quietly, waiting. I want to be clear about something. This was never about revenge in the way people imagine. No shouting, no public scene, no dramatic confrontation in the middle of the night. I built my business on patience, on reading contracts twice, on staying calm when everyone else panicked. This situation was no different. My lawyer and I quietly built a case. We gathered every document, every bank record, every signature obtained under questionable circumstances. We didn't tell Daniel anything. We didn't tell the family anything. We let him believe he had gotten away with it. Meanwhile, I made one decision that would change everything. I asked my lawyer to include a specific clause in the reading of Emily's estate, one that would only be revealed the moment her official will was read aloud in front of the entire family. Daniel had drafted that will himself, believing he controlled every word in it. He didn't know I had legal grounds to challenge it, and he certainly didn't know what was coming next. The days before the funeral, Daniel played his part well. Dark suits, rehearsed condolences. He even offered to handle everything regarding Emily's affairs, insisting I didn't need to worry about the boring paperwork. I let him believe that. Behind the scenes, my lawyer filed the necessary documents to formally contest the fraudulent transfers, backed by 2 years of financial records. We also prepared something else, a second document, one that Daniel had never seen, one that Emily herself had signed, quietly, months before she passed, after she'd started noticing the same red flags I had. She never got the chance to confront him herself, but she made sure the truth would come out, one way or another. The funeral was set. Family and old friends gathered to say goodbye to Emily, and Daniel, still believing he had control of the situation, stood up in front of everyone to read her will out loud, a final performative gesture of the grieving husband. He had no idea what he was about to read. The room was quiet. Emily's photo sat beside white flowers at the front. Daniel opened the folder, cleared his throat, and began reading in a calm, practiced voice, the same voice he used in every meeting, every negotiation, every lie. He read through the standard lines, the distribution of small personal items, instructions for the memorial fund in her name. Then he reached the final page, the page my lawyer had added, the page Emily herself had reviewed and approved before she passed. His voice caught. He read my name, Robert Hayes, executor of the family trust, sole authority over all previously disputed transfers, effective immediately, pending a formal fraud investigation already filed with the county court. The color drained from his face. His hands, the same hands that had signed away pieces of my daughter's life without her full understanding, began to shake. He looked up. The whole room was staring at him now, not with sympathy, but with confusion turning slowly into understanding. I stood up calmly. I didn't raise my voice. I simply said, Emily knew, Daniel. She knew before she passed, and she made sure I'd be the one to finish what you started. I didn't need to say another word. My lawyer stepped forward and quietly informed the family that legal proceedings were already underway, and that Daniel's access to any remaining shared accounts had been frozen that same morning. Within weeks, everything Daniel had taken was formally reclaimed. The fraudulent transfers were reversed. He lost the house, the accounts, and, most painfully for a man who cared so much about appearances, his reputation among people who once respected him. He left that funeral a broken man, not because I shouted at him, not because I humiliated him in anger, but because the truth, quietly prepared, was far more powerful than any confrontation could have been. I think about Emily every single day. I think about how patient she was, even while she was hurting. How she chose to protect her family's future instead of confronting her husband directly, even when she had every right to. There is a lesson in that, I believe. Real strength isn't loud, it doesn't announce itself. Sometimes, the quietest people, the ones who stay calm, who read every document twice, who trust patience over anger, are the ones who protect what matters most in the end. Daniel thought silence meant weakness. He was wrong. Silence was simply Emily and me waiting for the right moment to tell the truth.